Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. And today's show is going to be all about tiny places to live, tiny homes, container homes, ground up construction on small spaces, and why this emerging trend might be something investors should be looking at. And we've got two experts in the field. We're going to dive into tiny homes, container homes, tree houses, unique spaces. There's like 5 profit centers. Obviously, you can rent them long term. You can rent them short term for vacation rentals. You can sell them. You can do many things with them, right? There's a huge opportunity. And from my understanding, the average, it's something like to afford the medium home of 375 or whatever that number is, you need to make about 80 grand a year. The average income isn't there. So people are going to be stuck renting, but maybe they can look at building a tiny home on some land. And so we've got some experts today. Please welcome Michael Hicks and Lisa Englehart. I know Lisa personally. She's been a real estate broker for 20 plus years. She's a licensed general contractor, flipper, wholesaler, subject to all the good stuff. She's done everything. And she now has just said, tiny homes are the way to go because rehabs I can't manage. The construction budget's like I can on a brand new ground up construction home. She's building properties, I think, ranging from 580 square feet to like about 720 square feet, mostly ground up. And then she's putting in full size appliances typically, which is pretty cool. And I've seen these properties and they're pretty amazing. And then Michael does a lot more of the unique type of properties like the container homes, tree houses. And so they came together and they formed www.buildtinyspaces.com, which is a mastermind group for people that want to get into this business. Because I do like it because I think the cost to get in is a lot. It's pretty low, right? You can buy land pretty cheap and build these pretty inexpensively. I guess it's just coming and learning how you actually come up with a plan to build these properties and like zoning and all that stuff. So this is going to be a very exciting episode. Welcome to the show. That was
Thanks
a tongue twister. All right, so let's just dive in. A lot of people, go online and they're on Instagram and they're on YouTube and they're seeing these tiny homes and they're like amazing, right? They're amazing. But like, what's the kind of fundamentals of like figuring out zoning and like the end use of this property? Is it going to be a short-term rental? What kind of give us like kind of the framework of how you would position this for somebody who's into investing and maybe doesn't want to do flips anymore? Like me, I'm not a flipper. I just don't like flipping. I want buy and hold cash flow properties, and this seems to be a place to go. Where would you say that to start like the whole search, and where would we start exploring this niche?
Yeah, so the way I kind of look for property is I want to be in the middle of 3 major cities. I call it my ABC cities, and so we're in between Chattanooga, Birmingham, and Atlanta, or you could go Knoxville, Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta. And then I want to be within 30 minutes of one of those major cities, and then close to state parks and attractions for my type of build. We're not only going for the unique space, but we're going for the unique location as well. So we're hitting water or views. So that's kind of, where I look and where I start. Once I figure out where I want to be, then I'll hit up the local jurisdictions, planning and zoning offices, and say, okay, what can I do, or what can't I do? And then I figure out what I can do. And if that doesn't work in that jurisdiction, then I just move on. I don't try to force a square peg into a round hole. I just move on to somewhere that is more conducive to what I'm wanting to do.
So Michael, before you got in this, did you have like a construction background, or did you just?
Yes, so I started building new construction at 19. So I've been a little over 20 years, and we're also in self storage and long-term rentals, and we've got some commercial spaces as well.
So what advice? If somebody doesn't have construction experience, like, is it easier to modify like a container home versus like doing a ground up construction? I mean, where do you think the difference is? Like, I know Lisa kind of focuses on the ground up space where it seems like you do more of the like the kind of self-storage, the containers and the kind of treehouse type of builds? What's really the difference, and what might be easier for a newbie trying to get into this space?
Ground up.
Ground
Ground
up.
up, definitely. The container just adds another level of difficulty, and it's, everybody, oh, I'm going to buy a shipping container. It's cheaper. No, it's not. It's not cheaper. The fab is more. The insulation's more. Setting the windows is more. Everything until you get to that roughed in, phase is more. Once it's roughed in and rough framed, wired, plumbed, you're remodeling a bathroom essentially. It's the size. But yeah, I don't feel like a container is a great place to start, but it is doable. I mean, it's not that it's that difficult, but ground up construction would be easier in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. This goes to Lisa. Lisa, let's just say I see one of your floor plans. I don't know if I join your mastermind group or not, but like if I join your mastermind, how do I get access to these plans? Like, can I go online and is there certain places or what would be the way, like, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel where I could get a set of plans? Like, I'm like, oh, this house that Lisa just built is pretty amazing. Am I able to purchase the plans? And then can I, per se, like in your mastermind group? So what I would be hoping for, just, from the outside in, is like, I want to get a set of plans that are pretty much done, right? And I could take to the city and say, hey, I just bought this acre land in, blank, Nevada, it's well and septic or on site, and I want to build this 700 square foot tiny home. Here are the plans, right? Like, are there plans already like kind of ready to go that I could just buy and then just basically find the right contractor to build it out? I mean,
well, okay, so that's a misconception because this is what I have is not a national plan. In California, your building code is going to be different than my building code in Virginia. My plans are drawn to Virginia code. Now, could you take the plans and possibly build that in California? Possibly. A lot of times, depending on the requirements, the building inspector will mark them up with the per code requirements. Now in Virginia, I will sell my plans. I don't offer them in the mastermind, but I do have them for somebody because I have 6 different plans. Actually, I have 8. I had some more drawn, but I will sell them for a discounted price depending on the plan. But plans can cost anywhere. Mine range from $750 up to around $1,200 each. And so they're more expensive now than they used to be, obviously, but they are Virginia code. So it depends on whether you want a slab, whether you want a crawl space foundation. So I have both of those options actually on my plans where I can do either.
Got it.
The plans too, when you buy plans, you got to be careful because, you might see a set of plans over here for $200. But they don't have a material takeoff, and they're very limited as to what they're telling you. They're not giving you exact measurements. They're just giving you enough to give you an idea. Lisa, your plans are down to the takeoff, aren't they?
Yeah, we did a material takeoff on the frame inside and all of that. Not the actual interior because everyone's going to do things different inside, but the actual frame and package, yes, I have a material takeoff that we did.
Okay, so like let's just say hypothetically, I'm actually in Nevada now. I live in Las Vegas. I moved from California.
Okay.
So I'm going to be building in Nevada, and I found the city I want to try this in. So now let's just say I bought a set of plans from you, and obviously they're written for Virginia. I take them to my local county building and planning office, and they mark them up. Hey, this is different. This is the code we need to do. And now I have the takeoffs. I could build the material list of finishes, right? So everything's kind of specced out. And then I can then source it out to a couple of local builders, right? Because I'm not a GC myself, and obviously I don't want to be a GC. And then essentially get some competitive bids. Is that kind of what your thought process out, or do you prefer somebody like me just get subs, like where I get a framing sub, and like what would be the best way to kind of?
It depends on if your state allows you to do that. Some states will allow you as the property owner to subcontract everything out and serve as your own contractor. You just have to sign a waiver, stating that you're going to build it to code. They do allow that here in Virginia. So, but with us being Class A general contractors, we sub everything out. I recommend that you do that if you have if you want to do it, if you're capable of doing it, and if you are allowed to do it. Now, you will save anywhere from 18 to 25% from having to hire a GC. But on the flip side, if you have a good GC that you have a relationship with, sometimes it's better just to turn it over to them and just, oversee the project. So it really depends. It could go either way. Mike might have some comments on that.
And that 18 to 25% could be eaten up really quick by interest and delays from somebody that doesn't have a list of subs that, that aren't back to back to back. And I've seen people think, I'm going to build a house and save all this money, and it take them a year and a half versus a half a year. So they didn't save anything, and they cost themselves a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
But,
True.
Yeah, no, this is good. I mean, a lot of people. So, all right. So, I get them to sign off, and we're able to pull permits now. We get to that phase. We got the contractor. Now, I'm a lender by trade, right? So in the back of my mind, I want to be able to leverage everything. Now, leveraging the construction of this probably is going to be a little bit more difficult. You can, there are some lenders, but my thought process is once it's built, right? What are the regulations size-wise? Because I want to build a house that's big enough where I can get conventional lending on the refi side, right? That would be important to me, right? So I might get a private money loan, build it, whatever the costs are. We'll dive into roughs, and then now property got certificate of occupancy. Now I'm going to want to refinance it, get my money back out, right? So I'm going to, based on these like DSCR loans, what I would do is go, okay, well, what's the minimum square footage? Some of them might be 700, some of them might be 650. So I would check those guidelines. So I'm just thinking what's going on in my mind right now to do these projects, and I think this will help people that are watching this. Because financing, the construction would be a lot easier just getting private money, right? Like somebody that has got a retirement account and they'll lend you whatever it's going to cost. Typically, can you give me a range on what's your average house that you build? Like, is it a 650 square foot property?
Mine ranged from 339 up to, for the tiny homes, usually around 700 square feet, close to 700 square feet.
Okay.
I am building some 1,100 square feet too, but that's just part of the requirement of where I'm building. But what I was going to tell you is what I try to do, Beau, is build 2 on 1 lot or more. And that's what I focus on, is trying to find zoning that allows for 2 family. So you could build a duplex. You could build if the city or county allows an accessory dwelling unit, you can build an ADU in the backyard. So then you have a 700 square foot house, and you might have a 300 or 350 square foot house in the backyard. So now you have 2. So when you go to refinance, you've got 2 houses there instead of 1.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really good advice. I think this is one of these projects, like you got to do the first one. It seems overwhelming for me right now. I've done plenty of remodels and stuff, but it's just like, okay, to actually build it ground up and zoning and stuff. But I think once you go through the process one time, you educate yourself, and then it becomes just like anything, right? Then you get back up on the bike and ride again, and it's easy. So you're always looking for 2 to be able to build 2, and maybe one's 600 and maybe one's 350 square feet, depending on. And then we also have to think, well, who's the end user on this? Is it going to be, an Airbnb?
Exactly.
How are you going to rent it? What are the projections of that? So this is a lot of interesting parts, but what I like about it is it seems that you can create a lot of value and a lot of cash flow compared to most other strategies. But it's a little bit more learning in the beginning, what it appears to be.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Beau Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again. Can you walk us through, like, each of you, would you mind walking us through like a deal you've done and like talk about it, whether it's a treehouse, container home, or ground up, and then like the use of the property and how it's performing, like if it's a short-term rental and so forth, and just kind of walk us through like what the numbers look like and all that good stuff, how you acquired the land.
Sure, I'll jump in real quick. Going back to the financing piece, that's kind of one of the more difficult pieces, especially for a container home, and then being a tiny home as well. We've had lenders say, well, we'd lend on it, but there's too much land there. We want less than 5 acres and you're on 18. Or we'll lend on it, but the home's too small. So, we finally found a few lenders that will pick it up, and local banks is where we're having our best luck with the refis. But they're all with private lenders is how we funded them and built them, because, going to the local banks, they weren't sold on the project, but they said they would, refi after we approved them. But yeah, the first deal we did with the containers, there's 3 on that property. It's 2.5 acres. It's on the brow of the mountain looking off a bluff. We got seller financing on the land at 3%. And then we funded the first build out of pocket. And then the next 2 builds, we had a private lender on both of those. And of course we put them on Airbnb, our direct booking website. And they're performing really well. We're, 98 to 100% occupied. And we've slowly started increasing our rates and messing with that a little bit, but yeah, they're doing well.
So like on something like that, like how much was the land? You bought it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we bought it. We went under contract pre-pandemic. Yeah, it was like early February of 2020, and we paid $80 for that property.
Okay, cool. I'm just doing this just to kind of outline it. And did you just sell our finance? You didn't put any money down, or did you have to
we put $20,000 down?
$20K down,
yeah.
And then 3% for how long of a term did he give you?
It's a 10-year note with a 12-year note with a 5-year balloon.
Guys, I'm pointing this out just because land is hard to sell. So like a lot of times it's a lot easier to get seller financing.
That was the play there. We got out driving in the areas we knew we wanted to be, and saw the real estate sign laying over flat on the property, and, picked it up. I ended up knowing the agent, but yeah, you're exactly right. The property been on the market for 1.5 years, and no offers that they were able to work with. So, at the time I felt like I was paying a little much for the property. But we gave them their price to get the terms, and made the deal work.
And can you walk me through like what does it cost what did it cost to do each container home, like just the range?
We're in each home about $85 a piece, and that's what, again, everybody, container's cheaper. The container build itself wasn't the crazy part. I mean, it was we're probably $40 a piece in them, but then we've got foundations that we put under them. They're on a foundation just like a stick built home would be. It's a block foundation, poured walls, and then they're anchored to the foundation with steel plates and rebar and all that. And then septic, we were in the septic about $25,000 for all 3 of them, and then the grading, and we had to rent a large excavator and carry them down the hill to get them to the foundations because the crane couldn't reach from the road. Just all those little things, the water, the infrastructure, everything adds up. But we're at about $85 a piece in the containers and $80 on the land.
So $335, $345, somewhere around that total project cost. And what is it? What kind of gross revenue does these properties get?
Between 16 and 18 a month.
Woo!
Yeah.
Darn, that's a darn good deal.
Good enough, right?
That is great. And what I like, kind of like unpacking this strategy, is that you don't need a ton of capital up front, because you could parse it out, seller finance the land, and then do the first container, maybe get a private lender, maybe you have those funds. You get it.
I think now with the experience and the proven model, then we're able to go to private lenders and do 100% up front. The treehouse build, We had 100% financing on the land with a private lender, and then 100% financing on the build with the lender.
So that's so you're, essentially this one deal, net could be game changer for anybody, right? That's
it's enough to, if you wanted to retire, to me, it's enough to retire on if you wanted to retire. I'm not ready for that, but
yeah. And I guess that's why I was excited about the show is that's where I see this opportunity that you can be, really the whole game in real estate is like terms and being creative versus having to come up with $100,000 to buy this, Airbnb property. Then, okay, where am I going to get another $100,000 to buy another property? This is you can leverage and total project cost of $345 and $16-18 a month. And even, during slower times, and if it drops down to $12,000 a month, $11,000 a month, you're still crushing it. And you got cash
set it up where we could still cash flow at half the nightly rate and 50% occupancy. We'll still cash flow. So, it was a no-brainer for me.
That is fantastic. That's just a home run. All right, Lisa. That's gonna be a hard one to top, but
I know it's always a hard one to top with his. All right, so I'm a little bit different where I go into rural areas where I'm wanted because typically in the city or in the populated counties, they don't like the small houses. So I go where there's no minimum square footage requirement, which is typically rural. I'm building, and most of the land that I've purchased over the years is located in a coastal area. It's a small town, but it's a coastal area near 3 major bodies of water that lead into the Atlantic. So what I'm doing is I don't buy much, on the market. I usually get, driving for dollars, or I know the areas that I want to buy in. So I look for land and contact the seller directly. But I do have a one that I'll use as an example. I like to buy dilapidated mobile homes or abandoned mobile homes because they already have a well and septic on it. Now, the one that I bought, I couldn't use either. I had to upgrade the septic because the soils are really bad, and I had to drill a new well. So didn't get a much there, but I paid $20,000 for the lot. I paid cash for it. It was an expired listing. I knew the agent. I called her. So I ended up paying cash for that, but I borrow private money to build and typically to buy my land because I have relationships with people that I've met and they'll loan me 100%. So I borrowed. I ended up getting the $20,000 back after I borrowed my private money to build. But what I did is I got 2 half-acre lots. Both of the lots were on one deed, but after I closed, I separated them. So now I had 2 half-acre lots for $20,000. So it's about 10 each. And then my septic and well is what's really expensive. Well, basically the septic, because they're all alternative engineered systems, and they're getting more expensive each year. It seems like. So my all in on, I have a 680 square foot 2-bedroom, 2-1, and I have a studio style, what we call the teeny weeny house. It's 339 square feet. And my all in on those is 150. Mine's a little bit less than Mike's, but I don't have I didn't have to do the type of work that Mike had to do to get his in place.
So you all in for both of the properties is $150,000, turnkey with appliances and everything.
Yes, with appliances and everything. And then mine do extremely well. The first year I had them up, COVID hit. I made $34,000 that year, which I was shocked because I had a lot of cancellations, and then I got a lot of bookings after that. But in 2021, they grossed $56,000. So they did pretty well for a little coastal area. I don't have anything to offer, so I'm not on the water. I'm really close to all the the waterways, but it's a great place for people to stay that maybe can't afford a waterfront home, or maybe come to transient on their sailboat to have work done to it. I get a lot of that, and I get a lot of weddings where they come and stay.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you obviously have a little bit more skill set in the building than somebody green like me, where I've done overseen a few remodels. But so your 150 costs. That was depending on supply chain issues right now. Like I could pretty much expect about a 25% bump because of just where I'm at. I'm going to be subbing it, finding a GC to do it, and they're going to have their overhead and profit built in. So you just, food for thought, you can do things a little cheaper than somebody like me can probably right now at this point in my, career. Maybe when I do 10 or 15 of these and I get it down and I can find the right subs and that kind of stuff. But still, it's relatively, what does that equate to on a cost per square foot? Let's see, roughly.
We're spending anywhere from 95 to 120. It just depends. We try to buy material when it's down. Like I had a whole bunch of OSB in the garage that I had stored for another job. But, typically that's what it is. And we put granite. I mean, when we build, we make it nice because I want it to be above average. I don't want builder grade. I want it to be nice. This is nice quality. It's not, laminate. It's not anything like that. So we build premium floors, premium cabinets, 42-inch crown, stainless steel appliances. We put everything nice in them.
Okay. What are your thoughts on these shed to like home conversions? There is a guy that just posted one in Jim Ingersoll's group. Is that going to save me a lot of money to going that way? Like where they're buying these like large sheds that are like already done and then they're converting them to living space. Have you looked into any of that kind of business model?
Not me personally. I'm sticks and bricks. I want something that's going to be around a long time after I'm dead and gone, 100 plus years from now. That's just me personally. I think the biggest issue would be insurance and financing for the end buyer.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That's at the end of the day, that's the key of this. Is for me at least is like, can I leverage this the asset, and then what's my at the end of the day, if we execute the plan and I'm all in at 180, 190 grand, and it's producing $56,000 in gross revenue, right, or more, that's a fantastic return.
And let me say this: I'm seasonal. These are in a seasonal area. It's coastal. It is dead January through April. Now, I had bookings in between. So these type homes that are in a more populated area or closer to workforce, closer to hospitals would be phenomenal. I think the rate would be up near Mike's where it would be, 98% occupied, where I'm more in the 50% range. So more this year, doing better this year. But, it just depends on location. Definitely.
Some of the things you got to be careful with the shed conversions is, meeting code on your insulation thicknesses, your R values. A lot of those come with 2x4 ceiling joists or even 2x6. Well, it takes a 2x8 to get, to get the proper amount of insulation in the attic, and then you've got to vent above that insulation and vent the ridge line. If you're putting sheetrock right on the ceiling, you have no ridge vent there for the heat to escape. You're going to sweat. Some of the other things that I've noticed is egress. You can't have the proper egress out of a bedroom with a 3030 window, and those are things you've got to kind of look at. That model's not for me. Again, some of the same reasons Lisa was talking about. I don't feel like it's going to hold its value long term. They're sitting on block piers with no concrete foundation, just sitting on little pads. It's not a good long term play. It might be cheaper on the front end, but that's not always cheaper
right.
in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, this has been very interesting so far because it's really kind of diving in. And what are you doing for market research when you find these lots? Are you just going on and it's hard to find AirDNA comps, right? Or Airbnb comps. So you gotta, what's kind of your process for figuring out what you think you're going to be ending up grossing? I mean, the first one's always a little bit more challenging if it's in an area where there's not a lot of other short-term rentals. How do you go about your thought process on figuring out, is this feasible or not?
So we were lucky enough to have a tiny home, three home tiny home Airbnb village next door to us. or 2 doors up. So we were able to tell pretty quickly what our expected occupancy and nightly rate would be. We built out a little bit nicer, and we've been able to up rates to reflect that. And then the same thing with the tree house. There's a few other tree houses around Chattanooga, and we just kind of went with that model. And I'm always a little conservative, so I cut the nightly rate down a little bit more and just make sure it would still work. And that's kind of how we went about it.
Do you handle all your bookings and stuff, or do you have a virtual assistant?
My wife does management of the rentals, handles all of that. So we're getting to the point where we're wanting to take on someone to handle that, but we want to do that in-house and let that individual manage the booking, to manage the guests, and then hire an in-house turnover specialist to do the turns in between.
Yeah, I mean, what I really like about this is like you can be very strategic, and you don't need too many of these to hit your cash flow requirements for financial independence, right? Like I look at how many long-term rentals I would need versus, doing more a strategic project where I can put 3 or 4 homes on one lot, and that could cover my monthly outgo, easily. So, and it doesn't take much capital, which is the other thing. It's just really being strategic and planning. Talk to us a little bit about the mastermind group and like how you guys, what's the format of your mastermind group, and like what somebody could, what kind of education you guys do, and tools and tips you guys have in that platform there.
We have it's a small mastermind group where Mike and I are available to help anyone who wants to build tiny homes, container homes, tree houses. We answer any kind of questions they have. We also meet on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time every night on a Zoom call. We have special guests that we have on. Like a couple weeks ago, we had a zoning expert on. We had somebody, not zoning, I'm sorry, septic systems. And so we try to bring value that way, where we bring in guests that are in the field to help educate people, but we also provide our own education on the different build types depending on what someone wants to do. Now, Mike gets requests for to partner up. I know I think he probably gets bombarded with that because of his unique builds. I have had people ask me that. It's hard for me to do that out of state. Obviously, it is something I would consider in state, but we do have some of those as options as well. But we have a low cost. It's only $67 a month. And we make ourselves available to help anybody every step of the way.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, this is I've been looking at land for a while now, and it's just now I've got there's no reason not to do it because there's an abundance of it. It's just like in these kind of like tertiary markets, right? There's a lot of land, but the problem is nobody's building there, and there there's a lot of people. This town's actually growing a lot. It's got probably a population of 50,000. It's a suburb of Las Vegas, so a lot of people from Las Vegas that can't afford Las Vegas anymore are moving there. It's a smaller town, but there's a lot of land, like a lot of land. So I've been looking, and it was like perfect timing to get you on the show because now it's kind of like becoming more of a reality. And I already know, first step is look at the land that preferably well and septic already on. There's a ton of mobile homes that are like tear downs there. Find one of those, obviously get your well and septic inspected prior to, and then really work on your plans and go meet your local building and planning employees over at the city there, and then just say, hey, what are the requirements? I could probably download a lot of requirements online, and then if the property's under a certain amount of square footage, you might not even need a permit. And then anything over 600 square feet or whatever, you might need a permit. And then also, if you're building 2 of these properties, then you got to see if you can tie into the sewer and septic. The septic and the well, right? There's enough supply. So that's where it might get a little bit challenging. But it's really, and then just what would be the tips on, this is probably the hardest part. Now, I got the plan. I know what I want to do. Then it's finding the right GC, right? If you guys are fortunate, you guys can do it yourself and have the skill sets. So vetting a GC would probably be challenging. Is there any kind of trade associations that specialize in like GCs that love building tiny homes and that you're not going to get charged an arm and a leg, or would you just do like a normal vet of a GC, see what work they're doing and that kind of thing?
I would ask my local investor friends who they use, who they recommend. That's what I would do, because it is hard to vet, and a lot of the good ones are busy and there's a waiting list, but you can get in with them if you know the right people, in my opinion.
Where are the trends? I mean, what's really getting you guys excited right now with what you've done so far and like future projects? What are you working on? Is there any? Are you actively looking for land right now? What's your thought going forward? Are you trying to grow this, or you only need a couple and you're good, so you don't really need to grow it too much?
We're trying to. Our goal is 30 unique stays at unique locations. And that's well above our means, but the reason behind that goal is to give a lot of it away. Kind of get to that. We're at that point in our life where we've got what we need, but we want to do more, and so that's the reason behind 30. 30, I feel, will net $1 million a year, and I want to give a lot of that away. We're working on a container home on Tybee Island in Savannah. An A-frame treehouse in Blue Ridge, Georgia, 4 tiny homes in Dahlonega, Georgia, and then an A-frame village here in Chattanooga.
Wow.
Kind of the route we're working right now.
So you're going to get to those 30 unique stays pretty quickly, it sounds like.
The goal is in the next 5 years. So.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I think $1 million net's pretty darn good. So that'd be more money than you need.
That's right.
I want to keep building. I just think there's a big need for small spaces, whether they're rented. I want a combination of short-term rentals, traditional rentals, and maybe even offer some owner financing for some people. But I just want to keep on building. I have enough land right now that I'm subdividing to build about 55, and I'm building 8 this year. And most of them are in the coastal area. So I've got a new 2-story plan that I've come out with for that'll have the 2 lots will have water view and access to the water. So I'm hoping to keep those as short-term rentals. That's what my plan is.
Wow. Yeah. No, this has been great. I mean, we could talk forever. I'm gonna join your mastermind and do one. I want to do this. I want to at least try it, and I'm either gonna like it or I'm not gonna like it, right? So, but I'll learn a lot, and then I'll have valuable property. But I want to figure this out from from my mindset, right? And like how, how the refi is gonna work and all the little pieces that go along with it. It's gonna be exciting, but I think it'll work really well, and I'm going to go find a lot that has, I think R2 zoning is what they have here so you can have, at least 2 units or more, and then just go talk to the city, maybe negotiate with you on some plans and use those, and then, get those, make the tweaks I need to for the state of Nevada and the county, right? And then, septic, get a good well person and septic, and then, buy an existing lot that's already fenced in and nice and it's got mature landscaping, and then you can tear down the mobile home. Simple. All right. Well, I got a great plan.
You got it, Beau. You can do it.
All right, everybody. So you're going to go to www.buildtinyspaces.com if you want to join this mastermind group. $67 a month, which is very reasonable. And you get 2 experts that can help you, down to earth people, and you can probably run by your crazy scenarios of what you want to do. And Michael probably can figure it out. And tree houses and all this fun stuff, container homes. And yeah, it's definitely cool. There's so much coming out. Like there's a company here in Las Vegas. They're called Boxable. And I just saw they're trying to raise like millions of dollars on Republic, which is like a crowdfunding platform. But basically,
I think they just partnered with D.R. Horton, didn't they?
Oh, did they? I didn't know that. I should go invest in that. They're raising money right now. I better go put $500 in it. I go on Republic sometimes. It's like a crowdfunding platform, and you can invest like $500 to $2,000, $3,000. So I've invested in in like a mortgage technology company, and then I just invested in. I put $500, not like, but I companies I believe in. But you could actually crowdfund these type of, if you're building like 10 or 15 of them, it'd be actually pretty cool. But I just invested in a company that's they have 60 locations in Mexico. It's a really nice coffee house, like a Starbucks, just way better. And they're going to open 200 in California. So I put 500 into that. So it's amazing what we can do with investings. But really appreciate your time today. We haven't talked about tiny homes on the show. And I'm always like looking on Instagram at these, tiny homes and self-storage, and a lot of my friends and investors, they're short-term rental people, but they're going out and spending $1 million on a cabin in the Smoky Mountains. And I don't want to do that. I would rather do something, I like the more inexpensive ways of doing things that cash flow a lot. So this seems to be a really good avenue. So appreciate your time, everybody. Hope you enjoy this. www.buildtinyspaces.com. And thank you, Lisa and Michael, for your time.
Thank you, Beau.